Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Thursday. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We're presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Well, I just read that Zuckerberg lost $11 billion today. So hopefully your day's going much, much better. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, locked in for a weekend of Smash Mouth football. You hope, if you're a Nebraska fan, Illinois is going to be on site tomorrow. I think they're staying where we're doing the show from tomorrow. We're inside the Graduate at the Single Barrel, 4 to 6 tomorrow, as it's a road show Friday, home football Friday at the Single Barrel. And then we're back there Saturday morning, 11:30 to 1:30, right ahead of kickoff for Nebraska, Illinois. I'd love to get Coach Bielema to sit down with us. And I don't – the Single Barrel doesn't have the old 96er that John Candy took down, right? But I think Coach B would – you and I have hammered the mother of all platters that has 3 steaks, a burger, and sausage.
We finished it. It hurt me,
we finished it. It was incredible. We posted that triumph on Twitter. But I think Coach B would be able to, be an lineman. I think he'd be able to hammer that whole thing by himself.
Oh, that's a tall
Do you think?
Task.
If we bump into him tomorrow, again, Single Barrel, offer it up. Coach B, what do you say? Can you do this?
We have to make it some sort of competition.
No.
I think Bielema would need the competition in that if he's racing some other guy.
But see, that's something when you're talking 3 steaks, a burger, and some sausage and some brisket. By the way, you enjoy. You take your sweet old time. It's like one of those 4-minute drill drives, right? To end the ball game, you have the football. You just keep crushing away. It's 3rd and 2. It's 3rd and 2. It's 3rd and 2, and you get 3. You just ran the football. They couldn't stop it. There you go.
But the game plan with a platter like that, if you're going at it solo, is you have to take it down quick. If you let it sit for too long, your stomach's going to start feeling more full. Like once it sits, it's going to fill the gaps.
You've got to have a good pace.
The pace is probably the most important thing, and I would say that a fast pace is better than a slow pace. Once you start getting slow pace, then you start getting to get bogged down. You're going to start actually feeling full.
I think it's worse. If you just inhale the thing, it's going to explode on you.
But you don't have time to think about how full you are whenever you're going fast. Once you sit there for a second and you sip on your water, and then you go, oh no, my stomach's actually starting to hurt.
Water.
Great point.
Water. There's 250 whiskeys to choose from down there. So we're on the road tomorrow. We'll dive into Nebraska, Illinois today. And Brandon Vogel with us from Hail Varsity. He'll check in with us here around 4:25 or so. In hour 2, he is back on the mend and ready to talk Nebraska and Illinois and the weekend of college football. Coach Gary Barnett will be with us. And Coach Walters is the defensive coordinator for Illinois. He may be a head coach for Colorado in the near future. We'll dive into that side of the football, what makes Illinois and Coach Walters so good with their system. So Coach Barnett in 1 hour. Jeremiah Sirles, former Husker NFLer, his breakdown of the ball game on Saturday. And then Danny Burke, what is VSiN and Vegas saying about the 7.5-point line Nebraska's underdogged? You can join us. Dive in today at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. Can email the show, Chris at hailvarsity.com, and can always find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbal Essence for Elijah Herbel. And, the StreamYard is alive and well, and you can watch the show on Hail Varsity's Twitter handle at HVarsity Radio, and then ESPN Lincoln Twitter and Facebook. So we've talked a lot about momentum, and under the previous regime, that was always something that was never able to be grasped and held on to. Rarely did you have momentum. What you have right now is a pause after some built-up momentum. You were 2-1. You're coming off a loss, which isn't ideal, but the way you lost that ball game, there's worse ways to go down on the road. Right, there are some things you can take out. The coaching staff's talked about cleaning up and getting ready for Illinois. And then the bigger picture here is for Mickey Joseph, right? You're not hearing a word. There's no leaks. There's no wild speculation. You've had the flavor of the week going on for a while, but that's also died down. You know, Mickey Joseph has always been a serious candidate. And the drumbeat, the volume level for We Want Mickey is probably about a 5 or 6 right now on your home stereo. Back in the day, he beats Illinois. That thing jumps to 8, at least in the moment. There's still a lot of season left, Elijah. There's still 5 games, 4 after Illinois. But there's a big-time case, and we just don't know where things are at. And his comfort level continues to grow. And the thing that is exciting is it's a guy who wants to be here, who loves the kids that are playing for him. And that's not a shot at Scott or anybody else. I'm saying Mickey Joseph is a guy who loves connecting with the kids, loves coaching them up, loves giving them confidence, really likes being a hard edge coach, demanding but fair, and above all wants to push you to get the best out of your ability. And the kids see that. And whatever happens, I think Mickey's a guy that is somebody that would like to stay one way or the other. I don't know where I'm at. I flip-flopped on does he go somewhere else if he doesn't get the head job? And he has that option if he's not taken care of. But if he does a good job, and just say he falls short of 6-6, but the 5-7 looks as good as Nebraska's looked in a long time, because we're going to know a lot about this team, Mickey Joseph, in this tire fire he's inherited, and that goes a long way with Nebraska football fans. The look. Yeah, the wins need to happen, but it needs to look a certain way. And it's not sexiness or style points. It's, do they look like a football team that is coached up? The effort will be there, but are they coached up and are they put in position to succeed? Are they getting better, right? Is the team going to get better? And I think you get a chance to see, and you've had extra time to prepare, to really go out and take a swing for it. And his confidence level has grown, and it should, because he's done a really good job. And that confidence has turned into comfort. And it's a big opportunity here to really make a statement, a big-time statement for his permanency as the next head coach in Nebraska.
And if he takes down Illinois, to your point, you said that the volume around Husker Nation calling for Mickey to be head coach would jump to an 8. I think it jumps to a 10. And that's assuming that this amp goes up to 11.
I can't.
Assuming it goes up to 11, I think it goes to a 10.
In the moment, you're right. It might be Michael J. Fox at the beginning of Back to the Future getting blown through Doc's office, okay? But there's still more games. That volume can come back down. Yeah. And if things don't look good, if they get just bludgeoned by a superior physical football team, then this momentum, it goes from 5, 6, or 7 down to 1 or 2. You'll appreciate the job he's doing, but that hot streak's done. Because, I mean, Purdue didn't cancel him. Not at all, because they were right in it. They had no business being in it, and they found a way through big plays to be right there if they could have got one stop, right? Well, if they get beat up, I mean, just get outclassed, outmanned, not his fault, but I think that volume is slowly turned into a murmur. That's how it is right now. That's the wave of momentum right now. You're cresting high right now, but man, that wave can crash down real soon.
Well, because to your point, if you do go get out-physicaled, outmanned against Illinois, you struggle to find another win on the schedule. And the Big Ten's a week-to-week league, but when you look at how these next rosters coming up in the next 5 weeks are constructed, they're all constructed a lot more similarly to Illinois than they are constructed to Rutgers or Indiana or Purdue. So if you go get bludgeoned by Illinois, yeah, I'm with you. I think that noise level starts to go down a little bit because if you lose this game, I think you're destined for a 3-9 or 4-8 season.
I think it's how you lose.
That's what I'm saying. If you lose the game in the way we're talking, bludgeoned, outmanned, you lose this game by 3 touchdowns, you're looking at a 3-9 or 4-8 season.
Yep.
That's what's staring back at you. But if you go win this game, or even if you look good, you lose this game by 3 points, you covered the spread, and Nebraska did everything they could to win this football game. They're just a little bit outmanned on the offensive line, which, based on how I see the game right now, might be the most likely outcome. If that happens, I think we probably hold steady at a 5 or a 6. Mm-hmm. But as you said, if you win, if you are the coach that breaks this 19-game losing streak against ranked foes, it's got to jump up to a 10. It's got to jump up to a 10, and there's more room. That's why I said it's on a scale to 11, because there is still a little bit of season left, but it's a big game for Mickey Joseph and his pursuit of becoming the permanent head coach. If he can win this game, I would go as far as to say it's his to lose.
Yes. And listen, we're not delusional in thinking that this thing still couldn't finish 2-3 in the Final 5. Michigan's off the table. Where are you at after the next 2 weeks going into Michigan, right? You have a real big chance, confidence-wise, to get a win at home with your home crowd, with what you've been able to put on the field and coach them up. And then Minnesota's not anything special. They're tough, right? You gotta back up the toughness in back-to-back weeks. If you win Saturday, you got to handle success the following Saturday against the Fighting Flex. But first things first, figure out a way to stay coherent with all the shots to the head and body you're going to take Saturday. And we've talked about it all week. Nebraska's offense can do some things, right? And Nebraska's offense will have an opportunity to hold on to the football and run the football, just because by nature Nebraska's got enough skill weapons to spread out the Illinois defense. And Illinois may just say, all right, brother, let's dance. They may have a light box. Nebraska will have a favorable, numerically, a favorable opportunity to run the football, where it's not an extra safety in the box, Elijah. Just with formationally what Nebraska can do.
Mm-hmm. Want to go to the phone lines here before we get out of the segment?
We have
Moose on the line.
Moose, it's been a while. How are we?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Good. What do you think?
Well, I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, I don't know if I ever thought we'd be sitting here saying if we can look good against Illinois that it might be a good
Strange times, but that's where things are at.
Yep. I think you're right, though. I mean, if we beat a ranked Illinois team, that decibel level goes up to, like Elijah said, a 10, assuming it's a scale of 11. Here's what, if we can somehow not have it be a 45-minute to 15-minute time of possession, if we don't allow Illinois to grind it out the whole game. And then the other thing is, with Illinois, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's primarily single high safety, man-to-man coverage.
Yep. Yeah, they're gonna try and lock you down, and their guy's better than your guy.
Right, and they're not. Like, I mean, they can't cover our guys one-on-one.
So
we can't block their guys one-on-one, though.
Well, that's my next point. If we can figure out, scheme a way for Casey to have a little bit of time. He's not going to be able to stand back there all day, but if we get him enough time to make the throws, we've got the guys that can beat their guys one-on-one, I think. But it boils down to, and I'm stating the obvious, it boils down to both lines.
Yeah, and that's a worry, Moose. That's an absolute
it's a big worry. It's a big worry.
Here's where that worry could get a little bit of daylight, and that is Casey's mobility. I mean, just from a survival standpoint, his mobility, but roll in the pocket, right?
Yes.
He's been a guy that's been patient in the pocket and climbed the pocket and hung in to hit that big or deep throw, but he'll need to be on the roll, and you'll have to ask him and tell him to run the football a little bit. I mean, let him and Grant do a 1-2 punch with some zone read action and put Illinois in conflict.
Well, that's exactly right. When you've got man-to-man coverage and you got those defenders not really looking in the backfield, if things open up, take off.
Send everybody deep and just start running.
Yeah, right. Sounds like backyard football.
I love it. Give it to me.
Okay. You guys, go Big Red.
Appreciate you, Moose. Thanks for calling in. Try some of Moose's salsa. That stuff's money. Just a quick shout out.
Oh, Moose is Mad Fresh?
Yeah.
Oh,
I assume it's the same Moose. I know a few different Mooses. I'm waiting for Rocco to call in on the other line. Moose and Rocco were the two bodyguards for Michael Corleone. You know this. That's Godfather?
Yeah.
Yeah, Moose and Rocco. Those were his two
names. Huh.
They got rid of bodies. We've gone everywhere, from losing $11 billion to running the football.
Dude, I checked. I lost $200 on my Facebook stock today. That was a disappointment.
Well, it's only $200 for you. Brandon Vogel's on the way.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time. It's Hail Varsity Radio. We are presented by Currency. All sorts of great suggestions in the StreamYard. You can chime in as well there on the stream. It's ESPN Lincoln Facebook or ESPN Lincoln Twitter. The Hail Varsity Radio Twitter at HVarsity Radio. Brennan making his trip in. He comes bearing gifts and meat and whiskey is suggested. We've had requests in lieu of the picture of that volume being cranked all the way by Michael J. Fox, beginning of Back to the Future, the volume level for Mickey. It's either Power of Love or Johnny Be Good. We say hi to Brandon Vogel. Vogues, if you had to pick a song here, are you going with Power of Love or the Johnny Be Good rendition by Michael J. Fox from that movie? I'm
probably Power of Love.
Big Huey Lewis guy.
Yeah, I've never been the biggest Johnny Be Good fan, so by default, I think I gotta go with Power of Love.
Okay. Vogues is in his football office at Brandon L. Vogel on Twitter. Vogues, we will dive into football in a minute. Reaction last night to Nebraska-Wisconsin volleyball. I stayed up too late watching it. I thought the second set comeback was incredible. Guts, lots of guts. But do you think Nebraska played tight, or was it just – and Cook said this earlier this week that, he wasn't treating it as end-all, be-all. I mean, they'll see Wisconsin again at least once.
Yeah, they will. I was pretty shocked by the result, especially so last night. There's, not a lot in football that shocks me anymore. It's kind of like, yeah, I see how this could go this way, and, things get a little bit weird. But last night shocked me. It shocked me as much as 70-31 in the 2012 Big Ten championship game. Like, that's seriously where my head was at. And you knew, I was chatting with Jacob Padilla, our volleyball beat writer, after that second set, and you're just like, man, you expend that much energy and you still come out of it down 2-0. It felt like that was the match there. So hat tip to Wisconsin. Served really, really well. I thought that was going to be, that's big in any match, but I thought it was going to be the key when you get two teams as good as these two together. And credit to the Badgers. They kind of fought through the week that was for them and put together a really good performance.
Just felt to me like Nebraska was feeling the pressure from their passing to a lot of overhits. It just felt like they were feeling the pressure and pressing, whereas Wisconsin was out there playing loose and free.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. And maybe it's a little bit easier to do that at home. This is what we've seen. Nebraska remains really, really good. We're all aware of that. And you get to these handful of matches where you've got a team that's really your equal. And that's been the case for the past couple of seasons. Sometimes it can struggle to put the ball away against those teams. you miss somebody like, and I mean, this has been a while now, but Michaela Fecke, where it's just like, go to her and she'll make something happen. It's kind of ironic, I guess. Like, these teams get to this point by building good teams. And then once you get to that high of a level, then a lot of times, this is the case in football too, when you get to the playoff, it comes down to individual matchups. Your great player maybe winning 2 or 3 more plays against the great player they're matched up against.
Brandon Vogel with us on Hail Varsity, checking in on Nebraska volleyball. Do you worry about a hangover this weekend for volleyball?
I think I would expect Nebraska to come out and play pretty well. Getting back at home. Maryland's an athletic team. It's got a really big block, so that'll be good, I think, for a group of Nebraska hitters that kind of didn't have a ton of opportunities but struggled to put away the opportunities they have. Maryland can challenge you in that regard, so I think that'll be good. But I think Nebraska, I do expect them to bounce back. And like Coach Cook said last night, the rest of the season is now determined by how you bounce back. So they'll have plenty of motivation there.
Brandon Vogel's with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Vogues, let's switch gears here, talk some football as the Illini come into town 2:30, and then it's going to be followed up by that volleyball match, which will be a fun stack for Husker fans out there. But when you look at this Illinois team, the topic of the week, for the most part, has been real or fake. This Illini team, yes, they've taken care of all the challenges in front of them, but you can also look at that strength of schedule and understand, you know what, they haven't had the toughest road to get here, to get to that number 17 in the country rank. So what is your take on this Illini team?
Pretty real. I'm super impressed with them, and I did not see this season coming for Illinois. They had some really nice players back on both sides, in secondary, D-line, and running back in particular. But their O-line, they were turning over really 4 positions there. They've got 2 junior college starters, and you don't know, how those things are going to work out, but they've worked out to pretty much the best degree for them. One of the things that I look at each week for all of the Big Ten teams is post-game win probability, which says, okay, you have these stats now. How often do you win? Illinois was at 0.9 against Indiana, meaning that 90% of the time a team with Illinois stats wins that one. And these other ones, there's nothing fluky about it. Like, their lowest post-game win probability is 70%. So they haven't just won. It hasn't been fluky. Like, they've taken care of business, really controlled the clock, and they're giving up 9 points a game.
When it comes to this audition, this moment is big. You have a home game, you have a ranked team, you have a team that's uber physical, and you've shown to be able to motivate and get your kids to play at a high level. And Mickey and the crew are gonna keep coaching them up. How important is Saturday in this big picture for Mickey, considering they are underdogged? And I'm just saying in reference to Trev and consideration. I mean, is it just 1 of 5, or is it got a little more weight because it is a ranked squad that's leading the West?
I think it's got a little bit more weight. For me personally, it has a good deal of weight because, I said earlier, there's not much that surprises me in football games. Like, they can get wacky in a hurry, and that happens multiple times a week across the country. But matchup-wise, this one strikes me as pretty tough for Nebraska, just with Illinois' ability to run the ball. Nebraska struggles to stop the run. That defense keeps teams off schedule as well as any defense in the country. And it gives up relatively more big plays, but they're still average to about better than average in the explosive plays department. Like, their strengths seem to hit Nebraska's weaknesses. Nebraska's strength, primarily its big play passing offense, hits a good D-line and a good secondary. So I look at this as a tough one for Nebraska. If they find a way to hang in it, and it's going to be – the only way they do that is through, I think, effort and good tackling, good technique. If they find a way to do that, that says a lot to me, regardless of the name of the opponent or their ranking. Does
Nebraska take a page out of Indiana with how they chopped wood. They didn't run the football at all.
They abandoned the run in the first half.
They just said, white flag time, fellas. But they threw it around, and, Nebraska has some dudes. I mean, Nebraska's going to have to run the football better than Indiana did. Illinois is a different team. But do you try and take your shots that way? I don't know how I feel with Whipple's reaction to matching physicality, I guess, this week. The tone of that answer.
It's a big ask, I think, based on what we've seen from both teams. Indiana threw the ball 51 times in that game, sacked once. So technically it was 52 attempts. But, that's what Indiana has to do. We saw when they came into Lincoln a couple of weeks ago, they're just not able to run the ball. So Nebraska at least, has shown the ability to run the ball better than that. That said, the passing games at Indiana and Nebraska to this point have been a little bit different. And it's been the thing I've been wondering for the past couple of weeks with the Husker offense is that run game has struggled. Do you get a little bit quicker and shorter and more horizontal with that passing game to try and create some room, not just for those long plays, which we know they're going to take their shots, but also create some room for the run game. So we'll see. I'd be surprised to see Nebraska go that pass heavy, but Indiana, even though in my view it's pretty clear Illinois played better and deserved to win that game for whatever that's worth. Hit 4 long passes, I think 4 passes of about 30 yards or more in that first half, and not a lot of teams have been able to do that against this defense.
Brandon, do you like Nebraska's odds better in a shootout or a defensive struggle? And also, just as a follow-up to that, which of those two options do you think is more likely on Saturday?
I think a defensive struggle is more likely. I mean, Illinois is leading the country in scoring defense. Its offense is only averaging 26, but when you give up 9 a game, that's 17-point edge each time out. I think for Nebraska to have a shot here, they're probably going to need to be around 28, 30 points and say, let's see if Illinois can score that many. Because this Illinois offense, outside of Chase Brown is solid, but not spectacular, I guess is the way I would put it.
Brandon Vogel is with us from HailVarsity.com and magazine, managing editor. His book also with John Cook, Dream Like a Champion. Follow Vogues after you read him with Hail Varsity on at Brandon L. Vogel. So when we look at Chase Brown and his rushing numbers, I've asked this too during the week, what's a good day for the Black Shirts against Brown?
Probably keep him under 150. Seriously, I mean, I don't know what he's averaging per game. He's already over 1,000 yards, 1 of 2 running backs in the country over 1,000 yards, leads the nation at over 27 carries per game on average. So, I mean, there's not a lot of mystery here. They just give it to him and say, he's pretty good. Good luck tackling him. And I mean, and he gets a ton of yards after contact too, which is the other thing. So even if you're sound and everybody's where they're supposed to be, he's a player who's just good enough to say, well, that's great, but this case, maybe it's not good enough because I'm just going to make a guy miss or break a tackle or whatever it is. So I don't know what his average is, yards per game, but I mean, he's going to get his yards. He's going to get his carries. So you keep him under 150. It may not look like much when you pull out the box score, but I would consider that a pretty decent day.
150 with minimal 20-yard gains, 20-plus yard runs. Casey Thompson, about 15 seconds. Is he a rushing threat tomorrow or Saturday, do you think?
You'd hope so. It seems to work when he does pull the ball down or to run it by design. So that's another piece where I'm thinking you're struggling to hand it off. Maybe let's look a little more towards that.
Especially with how much Illinois loves their man coverage. That's when quarterback run is so dangerous.
And again, everyone go deep. Casey, you just run, man. Yep. Vogues, we'll talk Saturday, bud. Thanks for the time.
Thanks a lot, guys.
There he is, Brandon L. Vogel with us. We'll hear from Mickey coming up.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Open phones here. You want to chime in, 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-3776. 5865. Big thanks to Brandon Vogel. He'll be on the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play. We're giving you a couple of different options on the pod. Full show, if you want to take us with, awesome. If you want individualized segments, that is there too. Big thanks to Elijah Herbel for all of that. You want to watch it? Good on you. It's on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Tickets, how about them? Red Zone tickets, where you go. Selling fun since 2001. You want to go see Nebraska, Illinois, or maybe you can't make it because you got a in-law birthday party. Condolences. That said, buying or selling tickets, Red Zone tickets, your source for all types of events. That's Husker football. That's Husker volleyball. Creighton Hoops going to be just dynamite this year. They'll have option for Blue Jay tickets for you. Concerts. Big country show coming up this weekend at CHI. Dave Matthews going to be in November. CWS, are you into the theater like Fraser and Niles? What I'm telling you is RedZoneTickets.com, your source. They are local. They're out of Omaha and an A-plus Better Business Bureau rating. 100% guarantee on all orders. You'll get those authentic tickets, and you can cross that item off your bucket list. You want to see Nebraska beat a ranked team for the first time since 2016? RedZoneTickets.com. RedZoneTickets.com, creating memories that last a lifetime.
And think about that Saturday stack that you can get with. You can go check out that Illinois game.
Come see us at the Single Barrel.
You'll see us at Single Barrel Saturday morning.
Friday, Saturday, yes.
Obviously. And then you can go check out the game.
Nebraska, Illinois.
And then you'll have 30 minutes. You can walk over to the Bob.
Yep, boom.
Go check out volleyball. What a Saturday that can shape up to be.
And it could be a memorable Saturday, right? You take Nebraska down, you take Illinois down, boom. You have a comp for this Illinois team.
Somewhat.
Okay, tell me the comp.
So just as this week goes on, as I dive into Illinois, the more and more this Illinois team reminds me of Michigan State last season.
Herculean effort. Way different football team for Nebraska in the front seven. Would you agree?
I agree with that 100%.
Defensively?
But you look at this Illinois team, what they do really, really well, which is whenever they can get the ball moving with consistency on offense with Chase Brown, they can turn to that RPO action, they can turn to that play action, and it really lets DeVito shine. That's what he does well. But last year against Michigan State, you were able to take away Kenneth Walker and Thorne, their quarterback. He's not the type of guy that could stand in the pocket.
The flea flicker is the only thing that screwed you.
And a punt.
Well, right. But I'm saying offensively, that's all they got was the flea flicker.
Exactly. And it was because Nebraska's defense was able to take away what Michigan State did well offensively. And then you saw Michigan State start playing real nervous because no one had taken away their strong suits all season long.
What do we do with our offhand?
Exactly. They didn't know what to do with themselves, and that team was just a team that looked nervous, and they didn't finally get a spark until that punt return in the fourth quarter. That's what changed the game because they looked lifeless. The nervousness became almost dejection from that Michigan State team. Defensively, they were very solid, but again, they weren't like a multiple defense that was going to shock you the way they did. As that game went on, Nebraska settled in offensively a little bit more, started to get their game plan going, and Michigan State didn't have a counter to that. And that's the same way I see this Illinois team this season. Yes, they've done what they were supposed to do against the teams on their schedule so far. What they do well. They hand the ball to Chase Brown. They work that RPO, that play action game. Defensively, they do what they do. Cover one, they're going to try to drop a safety down into the box, and I guess we'll see if they come out and make any changes this week coming out of a bye week for Nebraska because Nebraska is so different offensively. But if Nebraska can start taking advantage of what Illinois does defensively, I think it could be that same thing where Illinois has never really been tested like that all season long where, you know what, plan A is not working, we got to go to plan B. I don't think I've seen Illinois have to do that yet this season. And it was the same story last year with Michigan State. As soon as they had to go to plan B, they started getting nervous because they hadn't had to do that to that point that season. Now, to your point, I agree 100%. This is a completely different Nebraska football team this season, especially up front.
In some ways bad, in some ways better, right? I mean, I think the difference this year with Mickey and the crew, I think you while it's not fair to say that doubt's been eliminated, I think there's way more positivity. I think there's this feeling of belief they can win versus when is something bad going to go wrong and how do we step on our tail to fumble this away? I think that's a real difference. I think there's confidence with this football team, right? And Mickey talked about it. Could see it in their eyes. They were hurt versus seeing that deer in headlights with the team when it got tight. How do you screw it up this time, right? I think that it's not ever gone, right? Too much PTSD over the years. But they've shown the ability to eke out one win on the road against Rutgers. They found a way to break a tie against Indiana. Different team, I get it, but at least from a mentality standpoint, that's different for the positive this year. You just don't got some dudes that are on practice squads or part of the 53-man roster in that front seven this year to stop a running attack. Who's with us?
We got Chris on the line.
Chris, thanks for calling. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. Yeah, it just could be infuriating, though. Nobody flips things upside down. You know, they'll say, look at or Illinois, who they've played, and their defense isn't, quite as good as it looks because of who they played, but they don't flip it around either way. I mean, because Nebraska's they have not played a good defense this year whatsoever. Oklahoma's probably the worst in the Big Five. I mean, they are just a horrible defense, giving up over 40 points every game since Nebraska. They're just pathetic. And the only possibly above average defense is Purdue.
I would say Rutgers defense is still top 25. Top 25 nationally. That's a good defense they played, and they were held to 14 points.
Yeah, they scored 14 points on them.
Still enough.
So, offensively, Illinois is much better than you're giving them credit for. They ran the ball against really good defenses already.
Yep.
And now they're playing Nebraska, one of the worst run defenses. They've already run the ball very well.
That's the nervous part, man. That's the nervous part about Saturday where dude could go for 200.
They can throw the ball around. They're not just, a one-trick pony. They've got receivers and tight ends, and they throw over 30 times a game. And Iowa has got one of the best secondaries in the nation. And, they played them. Nebraska does not have one of the best secondaries in the nation. I think Nebraska, has a, decent chance, fighting chance to win this game. But it just gets crazy because no one ever flips the script. They always got tunnel vision when they're talking, Nebraska can do this because Illinois, if you look at closely.
I will say, Chris, let me jump in. I will say that from a skill standpoint, and Elijah's made this point this week, I don't know that Illinois has seen a guy like Palmer. Okay? I don't know that Iowa, Minnesota, or Wisconsin have somebody like that. From an offensive line standpoint in a running game, you're absolutely right. Those three previous teams they beat and shut down, way better than Nebraska's rushing attack or offensive line. But from can you hit them deep a couple of times?
That opens up a lot for offense.
Certainly, that's the option, and if we can keep Casey upright, But
it's big. We're up against it.
At least two of those big plays. And it was great. Casey noticed it, but at least two of the big plays were just blown coverages, completely blown. I mean, Trey's an excellent receiver. I'm not,
All right, we got to rock, dude. Thanks.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, we were up against it, Chris. Didn't mean to cut you off there. Thanks for checking in and chiming in like you do. And, yeah, we just don't know, right? I mean, we don't know. That's what's going to be fun about Saturday. What can Nebraska's skill and special dudes do against a really high-level defense that hasn't really played a great offense? Flipping it around, that Illinois has done some big-time work against really good defenses, or at least ranked defenses, versus Nebraska's showing against Rutgers. So what's going to win out, right, between game plan, scheme, and execution? Mickey Joseph chimed in with prep and how things are set up to go Saturday as he met the media this afternoon.
No repeat Thursday. Went in the stadium today. We'll go inside tomorrow. We want to go in the stadium so we can get a feel for it. The quarterbacks get to throw in the stadium because, the wind in Nebraska can be a little tricky at times. So we took them in. We took them out there today. It was good practice, though. It was detailed. They were on point with things, and I feel good about where they're at right now.
So, hey, get them used to the environment. Little thing, big thing. Throwing in Memorial Stadium. Why not get them used to their set up. That was maddening where in some instances you'd bring in a guy and then because they hadn't practiced in the stadium, and I think this happened with a guy like Newby back in the Riley era, they wouldn't, at least they hadn't practiced or they hadn't had practice that time of day, so there was a toss or a pitch to him or something where the sun was in his eyes where he was set up, and it wasn't an excuse. It was like, well, we hadn't practiced in the stadium, so they weren't used to it. But this is good. This is a detail thing. You can spend all day or outside or inside the practice facility or out on the grass, or you can be in the stadium leading up to kickoff, which is good. More on physicality from Mickey here. Is it ready? Has the physicality build-up gone as planned for this week?
I think they're a physical group right now. I think they believe that they're a physical group, and we had a physical practice Tuesday and a physical practice Wednesday. So we want to continue to be physical. We got to try to be the most physical team on the field every Saturday. That's what Nebraska was built on. Nebraska football was built on being physical, and that's what we got to get to.
Good on him. Brennan asked the most important question: were cell phones allowed in the Wisconsin locker room last night?
We're going there today. Okay.
He's like, I suppose cell phones were probably not allowed in the Wisconsin locker room last night. He asked the question. I just read it out loud.
Oh, yeah.
That was funny. Come on.
It's funny. I just don't know where to go with that.
No, the answer, I don't know, Brennan. I hope not.
Maybe we'll find out 6 months from now.
No, easy. But no, Mickey seems pretty comfortable. They're ready to go. They'll do another walkthrough tomorrow, and more from Mickey here. Linebackers, Elijah, are going to be huge this weekend.
I'm proud of those guys because they went from playing 20 snaps to 60 snaps, and like I said, they were really detailed this week. And Ernest had a really good week of practice. So between those three kids, they got to be able to hold their own. We know Luke's going to have to play more snaps since Nick's out. But I'm really proud of those three kids.
Well, they'll need to pack their lunch and be ready to go. Good plan and rotation. Got to make some tackles. Coach Barnett in 10 minutes, hour 2 with Hail Varsity.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into it. It's hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. He is back and ready for some football. We welcome in Hall of Fame coach Gary Barnett. Coach, we, in your honor, did 3 racks of ribs last weekend and did some short ribs, and I would have saved some for you, but I don't think you were feeling like having anything, man. Good to spend time with you today.
Well, I couldn't have eaten the ribs, and I would have wanted to, but about all I can handle now is pablum, applesauce, and getting through it. We'll be all right.
Well, a lot of college football to dive into, and I want to start with Ryan Walters, Illinois' defensive coordinator. Nebraska hosting the Illini. They come in ranked. They come in as pretty much the West favorite. They've done a lot of heavy lifting, Coach, early this season with the kind of the big 3 of the West. They've made it through. What do you like about Coach Walters and just his style of defense? Illinois is number 1 in the country.
Ryan Walters is a heck of a young man, and he's done a great job. He did a really good job at Missouri and Memphis. Now he's at Illinois with Brett Bielema. They've got, like you said, the number 1 defensive in the country. But Ryan has always been a student of the game. He was a high school quarterback that we knew was going to be a safety, and I've been around Ryan since the day he came into this world. And his dad was a quarterback for me, and I recruited his dad. And his dad would have been a great quarterback for other offenses that are out there right now. We were running the wishbone at the time when we got Ryan, and when he got his dad, Mark. It just wasn't built to run the wishbone, but he could throw it so well on the run and make reads and that kind of stuff. If this offense shotgun was around, Mark Walters would have been a top 25 quarterback in the country. I, of course, followed Ryan and recruited him, and Eric Bieniemy was on our staff when Ryan was starting to get recruited, and Eric had babysat him. Of course, he and Eric and Ryan's dad are best friends, and so he's been around our family, and we've been around his family for years and years, since 1980s. So it's I know him as a person and as a coach, and I got let go before he finished his career. I think he then became a GA for Dan Hawkins. Yeah, he's been around the game. He's very intelligent. Got a great family, and I think he's going to be a head coach. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but it certainly well could be.
He's the name you hear, right? He's a name you hear for the Colorado opening. Do you think he'd be ready? And is that a job he'd want to look at?
Well, I'm sure he would want to look at it. We've discussed it a little bit, and I know he would want to look at it. It's whether or not he and I'm relatively sure he'll be interviewed, because you just have to. You can't pass up on one of your guys, and meaning the Colorado guy, and a guy who's done so well, has a heart for the place. I mean, it'd be like passing up Mickey Joseph. So he'll be a guy I'm sure will be involved in the mix before it's all over. Each week you and I talk that mix, one, it gets bigger, more people are in it, and then two, the deadline becomes closer and closer, so things have to happen. Yeah, I'm sure Ryan will be featured in this thing. It's just whether or not the athletic director, where he wants to go with it. We'll have to see.
Gary Barnett with us on Hail Varsity Radio, talking Ryan Walters, Illinois defensive coordinator. Coach, are you surprised, or did you think this could hit as quick as it has for Illinois? This year, they're just mauling people, great front end and back end defensively, and really talented O-line. Are you surprised it's happened this soon for Illinois?
I'm not surprised by anything Coach Bielema's involved with. I've been around him, coached against him, and done his games on the radio, and when he was at Arkansas, when he was at Wisconsin, and just, I know Brent fairly well, but he's a heck of a football coach. And then you take a place like Illinois, who is close to a really pretty doggone good hotbed of recruiting. It's, I don't think the average fan really appreciates the fact that you got Chicago that close, you got Indianapolis that close, which are both good football school communities. You're in a college town. It doesn't look like a destination place, but it's a good place, and it's a great school. So it's you put the right guy in there, and you got a chance to do something. You got to have great assistants, and I think he's got that. So yeah, I'm never surprised at what Brett does, and so they've done a good job here, and they're going to be a physical team. I'll guarantee you that. Every team he has is that way.
I don't know how Nebraska matches up, the first of a tough stretch for the Big Red. It's been a topic, matching physicality. What do you think of this ball game with Nebraska? They're at home. It's a national audience. Nebraska's lost 19 straight to ranked teams. I don't think Illinois overwhelms me, but I think they are really tough and good at what they do. So I don't know how honestly it'll shake out in favor for Nebraska. I do know that Mickey will have the kids playing tough and confident. I think that's something that we feel good about here, at least covering Mickey and Nebraska since the change.
Well, I'd say if Mickey's, when you look at his next five, and you can say they're difficult and physical, and that's very true. But he's in a position, really, if he can find a way to win 4 of these games, okay, and the next 3, you got Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa. They're, you're going to be in those games. Michigan, I'm not sure, but you're going to be in those games. And then Illinois, I mean, you're a 7.5-point underdog at home, and so that could change really quickly. So, there's 4 games out there that if he's coaching his fanny off and those kids are responding to him, that he's going to have a chance to be in and have a chance to who knows if you get it to the fourth quarter and you get hot at the quarterback spot, anything can happen. So, they're allowing a lot of yards on defense, and that's the problem. But they're going to be in it, and Mickey's got a legitimate chance here to make a mark at Nebraska as a coach.
Coach Barnett's with us, Hail Varsity Radio. Put your AD hat on. How are you judging Mickey? Is it in wins and losses? Is it look? Is it momentum? Is it recruiting? How would you ballpark this thing, whether or not you go national? I mean, the other part of this equation too, Coach, is are you going to get some? Is there a guy that'll say yes, or are you getting a lot of no's or maybes? Right?
Well, I think because you're around him day in, day out, you can see how he runs an operation, and that's critical. I mean, most successful guys have successful operations. Mm-hmm. You got a few guys out there that are just off the charts, like Mike Leach, mm-hmm. that you probably can't do anything but judge what happens on the field. But you judge the guy by the way he organizes, presents, how his players respond, how his coaches respond, how the people in the building respond. Your fundraisers are around him, how he's, it's a great job opportunity test for Mickey, but it's just as good for Trev Alberts as it is for Mickey. So you get a chance to see whether you can work with this guy and whether, he's got the pedigree, but, can he run an operation? And that's critical today. And so Mickey's getting exposed to NIL stuff. He's getting exposed to the portal as a head coach. He would not have been exposed to as an assistant coach, quite the same. And he's going to learn, and hopefully he's talking to coaches about how to do all this stuff. Nobody really knows, but I think in the big picture, the head coach has got to be above all the NIL stuff and above all the portal stuff. I think it's the assistant coaches that are going to be involved with it a lot. And so he's got to oversee that and learn how to keep an arm's reach away from it, but also be in control of it.
Gary Barnett, couple minutes, Hail Varsity Radio. Coach, what would you do if you're the Big Ten moving forward as one more hurrah for the West in 2023? Would you go divisionless? Would you go pods? How would you put the schedule and setup together for 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, and I haven't thought a lot about that, Chris. I am sort of in favor of no divisions, but that depends on what school I'm in.
Yeah, no kidding.
It totally comes down to where I'm coaching. And so if I'm at Penn State or I'm at Michigan or maybe Michigan State, probably maybe not, but probably Michigan State, I'm going to somewhat be in favor of no divisions. Mm. But if I'm out at Nebraska and I'm at Wisconsin and I'm Iowa and Minnesota and Illinois and Northwest, I'm pushing for the divisions or a pod. Mm. So I'm probably not going to get divisions, so I got to sort of figure out how's the best way for me to find a way to win 7 or 8 games every year. And I'm guessing it's the luck of the pod is probably the best way to go. I think no divisions probably gives me a chance as well, but then it's going to come down to the luck of the schedule a little bit. But yeah, I think it depends on where I am.
Coach, what do you think of the situation in Iowa? You had Coach Ferentz kind of lash out and then put an apology out, but honestly, their offense and the situation he's in with his son, right? I mean, Brian's the OC and things aren't going well. How do you view that situation from afar? You've got an elite defense that it looks like is being wasted.
Yeah, I know. It's, and Kirk has been able to sort of dodge all this stuff through the years and stay in that position and still put a winning team out there. But, you make the decision to make your son the coordinator. You got to live with it and die with it. And dying with it means, either you have a place to go home at night, or you don't. And so it's I mean, really, it's what it looks like it boils down to. It's not that simple, of course, but it's I feel for him. The objective side of you says you got to make a change, dude. Mm-hmm. And the other side, the human piece of it, you go, I get it, and I don't know what you do, but I think a lot of it I think it's a discussion he has, I'm sure he's had and has to have with his son about, are we going to both go down with this? Is that what it's going to look like? If so, I'll do it. Or, is this something that you need to, get out of here for a while and go, redo yourself, or what? But I'm sure those conversations are going on and they're not fun.
You got to sell it to mama. Honestly, I mean, if I'm Brian, I'm like, look, I'm not doing my job, and I haven't done my job, and I'm taking this thing down. I got to step out of the way for the old man. I got to do the right thing. That's my take.
Well, that's what it looks like on the outside, but it's never that way. It's always a lot more complicated than that on the inside, and we don't know those complications.
You're right. Gary Barnett with us. Coach, let's dive into some weekend action. Ohio State visits Penn State, minus 15.5. Buckeyes stub their toe. Cover. What do you think?
Cover. Yeah, they're good.
They are really good.
I mean, I don't think I have to worry about that, but it'll be a good game for a while. But I think they're just that good. They're top 2 or 3 team.
Okie State's phenomenal. What a win over Texas, a tough one against TCU. Otherwise, they're still unbeaten. They're at Kansas State. I know Adrian went down. The backup came in, and then TCU roared back. What happens in Manhattan? Minus 1.5 K-State.
Can you believe that spread?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a great run in Big 12 games, Coach. I mean, every weekend it's been fun.
I know. Well, it's been a great conference this whole year. I mean, I can't believe Oklahoma State is not favored in this game. Whether I like Chris Kleiman, I like everything in Adrian, all that stuff. If I'm putting money on it, I'm going with Oklahoma State. I find it hard to believe that Kansas State's favored in this game, except Oklahoma State just can't play defense, but they can outscore everybody.
Yeah. Kentucky at Tennessee, minus 12.5 Tennessee. Stoops is a name that we talked about last week for Lincoln. Do you think he'd leave Kentucky in the SEC? I don't know that him and Calipari are boys, but give me a thought on that coaching name for Nebraska and also Tennessee, Kentucky.
Well, I couldn't bet against Tennessee. I couldn't bet against them right now. They just, Josh Heupel's maybe the best play caller in football, and they got it going. Quarterback will be at New York for the Heisman candidacy, and so I couldn't bet against them in that game. But Stoops has absolutely done a great job. Everywhere he's been, it's whether or not he wants to leave the South and come to anywhere. But he's certainly a good candidate for any position, I think.
Nebraska, Illinois, Coach, minus 7.5. You taking points, you laying points?
It's at Nebraska, and I think it's actually up to 8 or something is what I saw yesterday.
Okay.
But I don't know. Illinois, it's going to be hard to move against that offense, that defense. But I think Illinois wins the game just because they can play so well defensively.
Gary Barnett, Coach, get to feeling better. Have a good weekend, and we'll talk again. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Great being with you.
Good stuff from Coach Barnett. Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Gotta go. Currency. More thoughts from the line perspective. Jeremiah Sirles next on Hail Varsity Radio.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back with you, it's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Welcome in our favorite Husker lineman, longtime NFLer Jeremiah Sirles with us in his Husker, well, we'll say cave. We'll say that. And so you got your Charger helmet, you have your Husker helmet, those watching on the stream, your Panther helmet. Where's the your Viking helmet? Where's the Bills helmet?
The Bills helmet is MIA. I've been trying to get it for years, and they keep saying they're going to send it, and they won't. Just like the Carolina jersey is MIA. Those are the last two things I need to round out the Sirles NFL Journey collection, and can't get my hands on them.
Well, there you go. I was wondering, okay, and you have a nice set of four. Move your head to the left real quick so folks can see. And, maybe the camera shot just doesn't have that Bills helmet on top, but no, you're waiting on the Bills helmet. Did you sell any of your Nebraska jerseys? Sometimes guys will part ways with them. You'll see it on eBay or YouTube or something.
No, actually, I didn't sell any of them. I donated a lot of them. Yeah. I gave to the Team Jack Gala or any type of gala or auction or something that they'd ask for donations. I gave majority of them, my extras, away to those. I'm down to probably 5 or 6 left. And, I'm keeping on to those. I'm holding on to those. There's some special ones in there. The first bowl game, my freshman year. I got the alternates. I don't give any of those alternates up. Those are all really ones that I want to keep. But, I keep all of those, and then I've given away some NFL ones. I just have one of each color from the NFL ones. So I'm kind of down to no more jerseys to give out and time to get them shadow boxed.
Did you have any of those jersey swap moments after games where you got some cool jerseys sitting in a box or framed somewhere at the house?
Yeah, I got Amir's, I got Rex, Spencer Long's, Quali's, everyone that I ever played against that was a Husker, we swapped. Okay. So I got all those, and then I got a couple guys that I played with. I got King Dunlaps, who was an offensive lineman, Nick Hardwicks, Joe Berger, just guys that I played with that were mentors to me in the game that I just never want to forget, swapped with them at the end of year type thing.
Ever go glory days and just throw the road white jersey on at home and kind of wander around?
Absolutely not, dude. Those things, I don't know how I fit in those damn things. Those things are so small. Those things look like my wife should wear them as a crop top.
So there's a no to walking around. See the jersey? Yeah. Jeremiah, where's the beach?
Nerds.
Yeah. Sirles with us here on Hail Varsity. All right, let's dive into Illinois. And man, they're looking like the favorite right now. We've dissected their schedule. We've touched on the fact that their defense is 1 or 2 in the country against the run, against the pass, and in scoring defense. What's the game plan here for Nebraska? Yes, get third downs. Yes, score points. But let's get into the how, Sirles.
Yeah, I talked about it early on the podcast this week, and then it was good to kind of hear the team echo it. The run game on offense has to get going. This is obviously a team, the Husker offense can throw the ball over the yard. You got Trey Palmer's the number 1 ranked wide receiver in the country, rightfully so. You've got Marcus Washington. You've got a lot of weapons on the outside, but against a team like Illinois that's got extremely good defense, you'll be crazy if you don't think they're going to say, oh, yeah, Trey Palmer, you ain't having 200-plus receiving yards on us if we can help it. They're going to find and try and take away. Now, I'm not saying that individually he can't go win those matchups, but they're going to make it really hard on him, and they're going to give us light boxes, in my opinion. I think they're going to say, hey, Nebraska, beat our guys up front and run it. And then they're challenging their front. They're saying, hey, that Illinois D coordinator saying, boys, I'm not loading the box. I'm not dropping the safety in. Go win your one-on-one matchups and make them pass into this back-end coverage. So I think the run game is something that offensively we have to get going. Grant a lot of touches. I think it's going to happen with Casey's feet too. I think getting Casey Thompson moving around, zone read stuff just to make them keep them honest. That's how you beat them. And you don't let them just own the clock and get off the field because, man, that defense is really, really good.
Yeah, and Charles, that's where I was going to go next. But with that front seven, and I guess with how much they do drop a safety down into the box based on what I've seen, you can almost call it a front 8. But with that front 7, do you think it's the most talented and the biggest task the Husker offensive line is going to have to face this season with what Illinois brings up front?
Michigan's probably first, if I had to say a better front 7. I think more talent, but I think by a schematics and by a system overall, I think that this is definitely a team that schematically they do the best thing. They do the things, they do it right. They make sure that everyone is a gap sound, assignment sound, all of that. So they are very systematically clean on defense. And I think that they are a defense that makes it so that you beat yourself. They're built to say, hey, let's go ahead and make you go 80 and see if you cannot make a mistake, because we aren't. They play extremely fundamentally sound football on the defensive side.
Jeremiah Sirles with us, Hail Varsity Radio, previewing Nebraska, Illinois at Sirles 71_HSKR. Follow him on Twitter. Sirles, defensively, let's flip it around to Nebraska and what's ailed them, and that is stopping the run. They've been pretty opportunistic in the secondary. I mean, they have a handful of interceptions. Pass rush-wise, though, that's been not real consistent. Your sound effect more accurate than my word inconsistent. But what's Nebraska do? I know they're going to be in the right spot. They'll be high effort, but it's a tough expectation, quite honestly, for them to morph into somebody that can contain a guy like Chase. I think now maybe you hold him to a minimum of 3 yards, but that's not how he's gotten down all year. He's always been great for an extra 2 after contact.
Yeah, I mean, his ability to avoid first contact, is something that he's been very, very good at. And, I think for him, the big thing is you have to gang tackle this guy. You have to make sure that you go and you have 10 hats, 11 hats running to the football every single time, because he is good at getting those yards after contact. The other thing he is he is very patient. He is very willing to stay behind that big offensive line and wait for the hole to develop and wait for his team. And when he does, he has extremely good bursts. He's one of, if not the best, he's probably one of the best backs in the Big Ten. So they're going to feed him. But it goes back to our guys have to make sure that they hold these linemen up and don't let them climb up on these linebackers. That's one thing as I watch this Illinois offensive line, they're really good at getting to the second level. They're very good at getting and latching on linebackers. And you talk about Nick Henrich being out too. So now you're saying Luke Reimer and Kolarvik, who, love Kolarvik, but he's just not a huge guy. He's not a guy that's built to butt up an offensive guard 50 times a game. So they're going to see that and they're going to run at him. And, the ability that guys like Ty Robinson and Feast, those guys have to hold in there on those double teams and allow those linebackers to use their athleticism to run and meet Brown in the hole, not a glancing blow as they're getting blocked.
Well, Sirles, has that been a theme of when Nebraska has struggled with their run defense this year? It's that the defensive line doesn't do a great job holding up the offensive line. I think back to Northwestern and Purdue and Oklahoma. And the theme for me looking back at those games was those linebackers always had offensive linemen on them. They weren't free to go make plays, and that just seems to be the problem with the rushing defense as a whole this season. Is that the same way your more expert eyes see it too?
Yeah, that's always the problem when you have a team that's running the football over you, is that you're not creating a new line of scrimmage on their side of the ball. When you get linemen up on linebackers, it's because you have displaced the defensive linemen. And that's what we were always taught in every level was, hey, move the downs into the lap of the linebacker. It's not just, hey, let's glancing, just come up. It's a double team, knock them, displace them, get them out of their gap, and then climb. When you have dominant defenses, they live on your side of the line of scrimmage. They're creasing those double teams. They're disrupting the timing so that these linemen are pushing against each other and you're not getting movement. And you're taught as an offensive lineman, if you're not getting movement on the D lineman, you don't come off to the linebacker. So you stick on that for even if it's a half second longer. That's enough time for a guy to shoot the gap, come over the top, whatever the scheme is. But when you displace those D linemen quickly off the line of scrimmage, you're able to climb because that guy's already on his heels.
Sirles, let's talk about Mickey Joseph and the job he's done and what Saturday could do momentum-wise. Yeah, it's still an open audition. You have a 5-game season. You have a tough stretch, consecutive matchups with big physical teams. But, man, this could put that Mickey Trev thought bubble into overdrive if you pull off a win. It's been 19 games since Nebraska's beaten a ranked team.
Seriously?
Yes.
Oregon.
Your boy Tommy Armstrong against Oregon, 2016.
Oh, yeah. When I was just a wee pup. I think, hearing stuff like that, like every game for Mickey Joseph right now is a statement game. And every game gets more and more important for him. And I think that there's something to, yes, everyone's kind of like, is Mickey the guy here? Is he not? But to be honest, I think Mickey's interviewing the rest of the country too. Teams are going to look at Mickey Joseph and see how he handled the adversity here, see how he handled things and think, is he head coach material? Not just for Nebraska, but for my team. If I'm an AD for around the country, you're always looking for head coaches. Shoot, we saw how many got fired. There'll be a lot of vacancies. There always is. So I think he's trying to put his best foot forward, not just for Nebraska, but for the rest of the country. And if he goes out and gets statement wins like this, it does put a lot of thought into Trev's mind of, is he the guy? Is he who we need? But at the same time, I think I would love to keep him on staff here regardless of who becomes the head coach, but there's a chance that he gets poached by someone else.
Sirles going to go to final thought here on Nebraska, and we'll sneak in a little NFL. Do you think Nebraska's got it in them to pull it off? What's it going to take?
I think we do. And, one of the big reasons I say that is Memorial Stadium, as much as people don't fear it like they used to come in, it's still an absolute difference maker. Fans make a difference. College atmospheres are so crazy and so wild. It's been a while since fans have been in Memorial Stadium. I think there'll be a little bit of an itch for guys to get back in and loud, and the weather's going to be beautiful, unfortunately for my hunting season. But the weather's going to be great. People are going to be drinking and having a good time, so that makes a difference. And then just with how much energy this team has came out and played with in the last few weeks, they will give themselves a chance. Where they will win this game is if they don't have self-inflicted wounds. If you don't turn the ball over, you don't have the pre-snap penalties, you don't have those types of things, you will give yourself a chance because of how good our offense can be to win this game. But you go out there and you live in 3rd and long because you're bad on first down or you get a holding penalty or whatever, we're going to give a really hard time. We have the talent, we have the ability. Can we execute, which has been the question for the last decade?
60 seconds. What's your take on Tom Brady in Tampa? Does this tailspin continue, or do they shake out of it? He's working on 3 straight losses for the first time in his career.
I think Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers all need to call each other and be like, yeah, we effed up. We should have got out of here last year. I think they all should have bounced. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers, maybe not. I'm joking with him a little bit, but the other two for sure. I think he's reached that point where Peyton reached, whereas like Peyton won his last Super Bowl because he was efficient and they had a great defense. And I think that he's reached the point where he's a game manager, but that's not Tom Brady, and he can't help himself. He's going to push the ball. He's going to do everything. I don't think they pull out of this, and I think Tom has a sour taste in the last, maybe his last year.
If you're the Buccaneers and this continues, do you think about benching Tom Brady?
Never. Nope. Never. You can't bench him. You can bench Matt Ryan all the live long day. You cannot put TB12 on the bench. I don't care how bad you are.
Sirles, it'll be interesting to see how the weekend of the NFL goes. Be sure to follow Sirles at Sirles71_HSKR, and great former Husker NFLer. Jeremiah, always great to get caught up, bud. We always appreciate your insight and time, and have a good weekend. We'll do this again.
Absolutely appreciate you guys. Hey, go Big Red.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back into it. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. VSiN Sports Network's Danny Burke with us at Danny Burke 5s, where you follow him on Twitter. He's been affectionately known as the Pride of Chicago for years on this show, and we welcome in Danny. Danny, big slate of NFL, and, the home state squad is here in Lincoln. You're a Chicago guy, just down the road, way down the road. Champaign, Illinois invades this weekend. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, Schmitty. I'll be doing a lot better if Nebraska can play a clean game against the Fighting Illini, because it seems like, I don't know how many years it's been, but, the Illini just have always played Nebraska pretty well, to say the least. And Brett Bielema's got his squad looking okay, Schmitty.
Danny, but before we dive into this game too much, the last time Nebraska won a game against a ranked opponent was at home against Oregon back in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
I was a senior in high school. What were you doing at the time?
I was
dodging my phone calls.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I think that was my junior year in 2016 maybe, somewhere around there. And I just remember that, and Nebraska was undefeated going into it, and Tommy Armstrong was literally carrying the team on his back, and it was an incredible win. But I think everybody deep down knew that Nebraska wasn't that good of a team, because they got ranked top 10 after that. We're like, that's probably not how it should be. And then they got walloped by Ohio State, and then it all went downhill from there.
To Nebraska's credit, they were number 6 in the country and barely lost in overtime at Wisconsin.
That's what. Okay, there you go.
Then the nuke fest the following week at Ohio State, where we thought
right.
Tommy Armstrong may have been knocked out for good.
Yeah, that sounds more about right.
Danny Burke with us. Let's dive into Nebraska, Illinois. -7.5, 8 in some spots, over under at 50. How are you diagnosing this? Are you betting your money, or are you betting someone else's money? Are you touching this one?
Well, I guess if I was betting someone else's money with no repercussions, I would, of course, be more enticed to get involved here. Look, I've seen some sharp people take the points with Nebraska. I've also seen some of the sharp money naturally go toward Illinois because this thing did open as low as 6, and like you said, Schmidt, he reached 8, but now you're kind of seeing some buyback on the Huskers. I even see a flat 7 out in Las Vegas at South Point, which is one of the casinos RVs and studios are located in. So that's kind of interesting if you did want to jump back in on Illinois. Total open 52. That's moved down to 50.5. I've even seen a 49.5. So 49.5 to 50.5 is the range of the total. I get the love going to the under, thinking that Illinois can limit Nebraska's offense, and that conversely, Illinois just doesn't have the most dominant offense, and their main source of offense comes from Brown, who can run the hell out of the ball. So that will take time off the clock. But I'm really not too interested in taking a total here. Man, I mean, here's the thing, and just like when they played Purdue, like giving Nebraska this many points is still tempting. Do we think they're going to win the game? Maybe not, probably not. I don't know. I have more confidence in them against Illinois than I did Purdue, but Nebraska catching about 2 touchdowns against the Boilermakers seemed absurd, and of course they ended up covering. I think the same situation is going to occur at Memorial Stadium with Nebraska hosting Illinois because, again, I mean, both of these teams had a bye week. And, you know, say what you want about Mickey Joseph. The big difference here is that the guys are fighting more so. I don't think head coaching-wise Joseph is made out for the gig. He's got a lot of work to do with his time management and what to do in situational spots. But, again, he was thrown into a tough environment. But catching over a touchdown with his time to prepare and with how hot Illinois has been, I think bodes well for Nebraska. You know what a lot of sharp bettors like to do, especially in the NFL? If a team's really hot and going into the bye week, they usually like to fade them coming out because that slows their momentum. Conversely, a team that's struggling needs the bye week. They like to bet them afterward. It kind of fits the bill for this game. Illinois, a very hot team. Well, now that momentum has come to a halt a little bit. And for Nebraska, well, you know, yeah, they kept it close against Purdue and they beat Rutgers the week before, but now they have another reset with Mickey Joseph. So, again, if I'm getting over 7 points, Schmitty, I would probably lean toward taking it with the Huskers. But, again, this is if I'm betting someone else's money, not mine. I don't want to have to stress it out personally, but that's the angle I would approach.
Danny, let's talk some NFL. As an interesting slate of games this weekend. Let's start off with Thursday night football tonight. The Buccaneers and the Ravens. The Bucs are a 2-point home favorite despite just everything that's gone wrong for them this season.
Yeah, and this number's gone all over the place. I mean, Tampa opened 3, then after they lost to, pretty much a CFL team in the Carolina Panthers, and it flipped with the Ravens going up to -1.5, and now it's flipped back. I know Calais Campbell's out in this game. Mark Andrews is questionable. I haven't seen his latest status. But I kind of get it. Like, it's a short week. It's tough for this Ravens team that has really played sloppy in the second half of every single game. They almost blew a double-digit lead once again last week against the Browns. Thankfully, they didn't because they held out for my bet that I had with a Moneyline Parlay. But, look, I like this Ravens team a lot. It's just obviously there's something wrong in the second half. Clearly there's something wrong in their secondary, which Tom Brady and his plethora of weapons should be able to expose despite their offense stinking as of late. Short week advantage goes to Tampa Bay. Everybody doubted out on Tampa Bay. That usually goes to advantage of the team that's looked bad the last week, except Tampa Bay's looked bad the last several weeks and really the whole year. So I didn't do anything with the side. I kind of leaned toward the total going over, but what I ended up playing here, boys, is Lamar Jackson under his passing yards. 213.5 is what I bet to the under. Lamar's only averaging 17 completions on 28 attempts for 200 passing yards himself, 61% completion rate, 11 yards per completion, which is fine. But you're going up against what still is a good Bucs defense. I know everything's negative around Tampa, but their defense has been holding relatively strong. They rank 6th against the pass, according to DVOA. They're allowing opposing quarterbacks just 210 passing yards per game, 9.1 yards per completion, 63% of the passes to be completed. So what I'm getting to is they're going against a Ravens offense that loves to run the ball. You love to have Lamar Jackson do RPOs, keep the ball himself. You want to wind down that clock and keep the pigskin out of Tom Brady's hands. That's going to equal to Lamar Jackson maybe not having as big of a game in terms of the passing yardage, which we typically don't see from him anyways, right? I mean, you look at what happened, too, against P.J. Walker going on against the Bucs. I mean, Walker only completed 16 passes for $177. They still managed to win the game with Chuba Hubbard and Dante Foreman. They can do the same exact recipe if you're Baltimore on a short week. Dak only threw for $134. Marcus Mariota, mobile quarterback, 147. Really, the only big names who got over were Mahomes, Rodgers, and Winston, but they're throwing the ball over 35 times a game. So I have Lamar Jackson at about 18 of 30 for 180 yards in this game. So the fact that the prop market was giving me 213.5, I thought that was a viable bet to go under. He has stayed under that mark in 5 out of 7 games. Really, the only time he cruised over was against a really bad Dolphins secondary where they scored 38 points at 318 yards. The only other time he went over was against New England, and he barely got over at 218. So I think Lamar Jackson under his passing yards prop is the top play for tonight's game.
Danny, 30 seconds, game you like most this weekend in the NFL.
I got 2 for you really quick. I'll just talk about I like the Patriots to bounce back against the Jets. I know the quarterback situation's all over the place, but the Jets clearly don't trust Zach Wilson. The Patriots still have a competent running offense, so I like New England. The Sharps like them too. I took them on the money line. And then I like the 49ers to beat the Rams once again. They dominate them during the regular season. They've lost the last 2 games, which I think is going to bode well for them, needing a win against a weak Rams team despite them coming off a bye. It doesn't matter. Shanahan owns McVay in the regular season.
Danny Burke, VSiN Sports Network. Danny, thanks for the time.
You got it, fellas. Take care.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Thursday, Hail Varsity presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Get the podcast today, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and also Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Good stuff from Sirles and Danny Burke. And, of course, Coach Barnett, Brandon Vogel, loaded up. We are on the road tomorrow. Want to see you at Single Barrel 4 to 6. Get yourself a giant old steak. Get yourself a whiskey or beer. And we're there 4 to 6 Friday, Roadshow Friday, and then again Saturday, 11:30 to 1:30. Pre-game Nebraska, Illinois, weekend edition gets going. Give me a good weekend of football, man.
I sure hope so. Because I look at it, and I'm a little bit scared for this weekend of football. With Illinois in town on Saturday and the Broncos go play the Jaguars Sunday morning in London, like, this could be a disastrous weekend of football.
Dude, just accept the fact that Saturday could go wrong.
Yeah.
And Sunday will go wrong.
Say that.
Well, come on, man. You got just a nut at quarterback, and then it's fire sale time. The only hope you have as a Donk fan is that you can get rid of this coach and go find somebody else.
Well, you're not wrong, but you don't have to say it. Like, you're depressing me right now.
It's just that you'll be okay. John's going to pour.
We're going to be okay. The Broncos.
John's going to pour scotch and go recruit another quarterback.
Me as a person, yes, I'll be fine. The Broncos, they're screwed.
Yeah, but they've looked like that all year.
No, but for we've mortgaged our future for Russell Wilson, and he's terrible. Mm-hmm. Like, and I have hope he could at least be an average NFL quarterback. I have hope if we can do that. Like,
he has
ability. Salvage some things.
I think he's wore out his locker room already.
But the problem is like usually when you have a season like this, yeah, you can go make up for it in the draft. But we traded away all our picks for this dude. We're screwed. And then our cap's screwed for the next 7 years, too, because we're paid this dude way too much money. Even if we cut him, we have to pay the dead cap. It's terrible. All around. The Broncos, I might check out of for the next couple years unless something drastic happens over the next 8 weeks. Because, like, if the rest of the season goes how I think, I don't think there's any hope that next season's going to be better.
You were gonna abstain from watching Denver football, and you're going to hook up with Randy, and you're going to start writing the children's book. Randy Goes to the Dispensary.
It's my future. It's my big break.
Yeah, Elijah is now an author. Reminder to get buckled up. Using your seatbelt saves lives, prevents injuries only if properly worn. Buckle up. A message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. This may cheer you up. Steak and a beer bet?
For tonight?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I want you to pick first.
Yeah, because we've determined over the past few months that whoever picks first tends to pick wrong.
Well, actually, the more times than not, pick total opposite of what Elijah picks.
Well, I'm going to take the Buccaneers to cover a 2-point spread at home.
Okay. I will take Baltimore and the 2 and gladly watch Levante Ball and Tom continue to throw fits.
Okay, well, the Buccaneers are going to win anyway.
We'll see.
And they're going to win by at least 2.
And Elijah's just going to, I want that. He's going to pick the steak off a glorious steak menu at the Single Barrel. We'll see you there tomorrow inside the Graduate Hail Varsity Roadshow. Take care. Talk to you at 4.